Welcome to the Electric Theatre.
Hey.
Hey, what's up, bro? How you doing?
Good. How are you today?
Oh, I'm all right, man.
Where are you
Kicking
at?
it.
Where are you
Richmond, Virginia. Where are you?
I'm in Des Moines, Iowa, chilling with the family. What about you?
Yeah, man, just kicking it, trying to stay a little bit creative and get some work done and work out and meditate and shit.
Well, I'll tell you what. Thank you. Thanks for taking some time today to talk to the clown. I have dozens and dozens of things that I would like to discuss with you, but there's a couple really important ones that I really want to get to. Just real briefly, what I'm trying to do here, a lot of it is for myself in order to break through some veils that interrupt my process in life, which is a lot of the time I don't make time to speak to people and be social and these sorts of things. And, it's something that's always bothered me. It's real deep. But anyway, with that, there's a lot of things I've always wanted to ask you. And I always feel like when we're in the setting that we choose to be in, we're out there on the road. Sometimes, I notice communication with your peers, your friends, it seems so familiar and repetitive. It's like a loop, it's like we only have so much time. You're on your way, I'm on my way. So I want to, there's things I wanted to ask you forever, and we'll get to all of it. And I'm not going to talk so much, but one thing right away that I wanted to get to, and it can just start this whole thing off, is your photography, obviously. And I've noticed for a long time now, you hanging out with a Leica. And, I want to ask you about that. I want to get into that and maybe start with when it hit you that you knew when that timepiece, that time machine hit your hand, that you knew you were going to continue to do it.
Right. You mean photography in general or the Leica specifically?
I think, well, I do want to know why your choice of weaponry, of course, but I think when did you have the epiphany that you enjoyed what was happening, the instant gratification or the numerous amounts of anomalies that can happen when you're taking photographs? When did that hit, and what was that like? What was that?
I can tell you the precise moment and the things and I have the picture that I took that caused me to become a photographer. What happened is sometime around probably 2010 or 11, I was getting very fed up and overloaded with overloaded by the overload of information that is thrown at us at all times, specifically via screens, specifically via the internet, and which we all have in our pockets and our little pocket Jesuses, as I call the cell phone. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to unplug from the internet for 1 year, and I'm going to write a book about it. And so I decided I was going to unplug from the internet for a year. I wasn't going to shun computers totally. Like, I would still use one to record music per se, but I wasn't going to use a cell phone or email or any of that shit. And people had I remember my bass player had a pretty strong reaction. He actually seemed mad, John did. He was like, "You can't do that." And I was like, "Yes, I can. We toured and did things before this. I'll still do press. They're just going to have to call me on a landline in a hotel or whatever." So I had this plan, and I was sitting on the airplane with Jamie Josta in Australia, and I looked at him and I said, "This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to unplug from the internet for a year. No email, no online bill pay, none of that shit. No Amazon. And I'm going to write a book about it." And I gave him the whole spiel, and he looked at me and he goes, "Okay, here's how we're going to shoot the documentary." Totally threw the book idea out the window. We're going to shoot a documentary, which is very Jamie, Very Jamie. Very Jamie. So I was like, "Oh, that makes sense." So I started asking some documentarians I know, specifically Don Argett, who did the documentary "As the Palaces Burn" about my band and my legal travails. I said, "What's a decent sort of prosumer model camera that I can just start getting some footage with, on my own?" And he told me a Canon 60D to shoot like B-reel footage. So I started interviewing different people in different professions about their use of the internet and how it's changed their life. And but I was also really just shooting a lot of skateboarding videos with it because I was skating a lot at the time. So one day I was going out to go skateboarding with my buddy Josh, and I was in my kitchen. I was getting my board and my camera ready, and I saw my French press coffee maker sitting on the stove, and it has a domed chrome lid, and I caught my reflection in it, and it looked all weird and distorted, and I was like, "Wow, that looks pretty cool." So let me try and I had the camera in my hand, which I'd only used for video. So let me try and use this thing for what it's actually made for. So I put it on dummy mode, automatic, because I don't know anything about cameras at that point in time. And I pointed it at the French press, and I took a picture, and it popped up, and I looked at it, and I was like, "I'm a genius," right? Instantly. Of course, it was a completely and utterly average photo, totally average photo. But something about seeing that image pop up on the viewfinder, not the viewfinder, but the screen on the back, and seeing the way I had instinctively framed it, and the camera was on auto, so it did the work of selecting depth of field and all that stuff. So the top of the dome was focused, and the rest was blurry because it was a pretty wide aperture, and I was just like, that just looks so freaking cool. Totally average photo, but it was that moment that I was like, man, this is awesome. And from that moment on, I have rarely gone anywhere without a camera in my hand. It just instantly struck me. And I never, ever, ever thought or was even interested in being a photographer. I thought photographs were cool, I guess, but I just kind of took them for granted.
What's your style? I mean, so when you say that you very rarely go anywhere without, the camera, that would tell me that you may be honing in, maybe even on something very particular. I don't want you don't have to like put it into a style or what you're trying to accomplish, but is there some, for instance, my daughter, she shoots, and I'm a big fan, and she's really good at candid stuff,
right.
And I can't. I usually can't interact with people where I can get a moment to get them, because it's like I enter the room, there's conversation, it's just like I can't be anywhere and kind of sneak to get something candid of someone. I mean, I can, but you know what I'm saying. So what do you like? Does anything turn you on specifically?
Well, I think I'm a lot like your daughter in that sense that I love candid shots and I love shooting human beings because I mean, I love landscapes as well. I do a lot of that, because we're lucky enough, both of us, to travel the world, and we've seen some pretty amazing things. And I love sort of abstract structural things. Like I've been taking a lot of pictures of these train tracks and this bridge recently. But really what I really like shooting is human beings. And I like catching those candid moments that are honest. They tell a story, because as soon as you point a camera at someone and they're aware of it, generally everything changes. They become self-conscious, and that is not a true representation of what that person is. That is them altering their even their physical appearance, but their sort of whole vibe for the camera. As far as my style, I guess I would just call myself at heart a street photographer, because I'm not. I normally use available light, and B, I'm not a studio guy because I don't have the patience or know-how to set up a shot like really, really nicely in a studio. I have great respect for that, and it's something I would like to learn in the future. But the fact of the matter is, I've just been lazy, and available light provides me what I need most of the time. So for me, the big thing, what I'm trying to do with my with my photography is not capture so much a specific subject. It goes back to why I enjoy photography so much, and that is that in my prose writing and in my lyric writing, it's very subjective, and it's very much me trying to convey my point or some sort of emotional fragment of my being. I'm trying to put into the music or to the writing to convey my very subjective point about what I believe or how I feel about a specific subject matter. And that's it's very ego riddled. There has to be a healthy ego in order to be an artist and put your work out there. There just has to. But too much of that for me is not good. So what I really like about photography is that it's much more an objective artistic experience for me, because I don't create situations. I go out and look in the world for beauty, generally, what I consider beautiful, which, much like you, may seem odd to some people. But what I consider beautiful, the world provides for me. So I'm open, I'm not so closed and focused and pushing forth my view through creation. I'm engaged in the act of creation, but the world provides the canvas for me. And photography is obviously not completely objective, because I am attracted to certain things and I frame shots a certain way. So that's me, that's my personal aesthetic bias, as it were. But it's I don't create anything, I go out and capture what I see. So that's and it kind of shuts off that monkey mind I have, which is constantly spinning, and viewing everything as a potential subject matter for a story or a book or a song. And it's me being open to the world, because if I'm constantly just thinking about my viewpoint, I can get really myopic. Photography literally changes my perspective, and it broadens it and widens it, and allows me to get outside of myself somewhat. And that's, for me, another really cool thing about photography for me is the way I process my life is through art. Everything I tend to understand myself through the best at the art that I create. And with photography, I'm a pretty instinctive shooter. I don't take a lot of time. I shoot quickly, particularly on the street, because it's this split second where you have to get that shot. So oftentimes I don't really understand why I shot a photo, what drew me to it, until I look at it later as I'm editing it or it's being printed. And I look at it and I'm like, oh, okay, I see the story here and I understand why I did that, because my subconscious was working faster, much faster than my conscious was, my conscious thinking process. It's like, boom, it automatically knows what it wants. I shoot it and I look at it and I understand why I was attracted to it. And looking at this stuff helps me understand my life as it was in that moment of creation. And that's how I process my life, is through art, whether it be music, writing, photography, whatever, it just allows me to be a bit more open and objective. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. It sounds to me a little bit, it sounds like you have a lot of historian in you. Because if you're compelled to, you're out on the street, you're doing your thing, you're in the culture, you're in the environment, you're in reality, you're living, time is real, you're there, you don't know why, you see something, could be anything, as random as you can possibly think, you're compelled to take a photo, you do it, later you put it together. That's like a lot of historian stuff. You're capturing a moment in this life, and that's awesome. What, if I remember right, do you mainly shoot in black and white, or is it black and white or color, or both?
Well, it's both, but lately, and overall, I would say I'm much more attracted to monochrome images. I am much more interested in black and white photography. And that, for me, is for a couple of reasons. The number one reason, I think, is just I think it's cool looking. The aesthetic just kind of it really it appeals to me. And the other reason is that while I do enjoy color photography and I think it has its place, it can be superfluous at times. Like if you like a black and white photo, it strips away all the pretty colors, all the different shades and all that stuff, and gets down to the base, the really root of the subject, and it really displays the strengths and weaknesses of the composition of the photo as well. There's nothing else to distract the eye. So like,
it's a level of light. I coming up in my world of photography, I was always amazed at like what you're talking about right now, because it's like, coming up, learning, everyone pushes you to try to become as close to a master in black and white first before you go indulge color, because color makes it easy. We know this, it's just, capture a parrot in front of you in color, you can do really well because of its attributes of color, but take that away, shoot in black and white, and now our subject is all light. Light doesn't know who we are. It doesn't know what a parrot is. It's just there, and it's up to us to see it. So I understand what you mean, but I didn't mean to interrupt. But yes, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I like that, what you're saying. Continue.
No, it's all right. And the other thing is that for me, shooting a lot in black and white it's me really trying to work on my skills, because I'm still not confident really as a photographer. Like I think I think false humility is just as bad as arrogance. I'm a good photographer, but I am nowhere near where I want to be. And I have so much to learn. And I have so many different things I can work on. And, for me, it's really, when I shoot black and white, I'm forced to examine the basics of what I'm doing and make sure that they are fundamentally solid. So I'm not I'm not entirely confident with my photography, and that's a good thing for me. I think, it really is, because if I feel like, man, I'm a badass, I got this, then I'm not really inspired. I like to be challenged, and I like, every time every time I take a picture that I think is just freaking awesome and I look at it, I'm like, that's a badass picture and it may be good. After a little while, I'll start looking at somebody else's photos and I'm like, oh man, that I'll see a photo that just levels me and I'm just like, oh my God, dude, I have so much work to do. I have so much, I need to really just approach it with more intention, because as much as I love to go out and shoot off the cuff, I find that if I'm really concentrating on improving myself, I get better shots. So, I really enjoy keeping it green and wanting to keep learning. That's, it never gets stale to me. Photography doesn't. Never, ever, 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 ever. It's always awesome. Certain locations can get stale if I'm in the same place for too long. That's one great thing about touring, is that, it's like you go out and you're just like, oh, wow, somewhere new. Or even if it's somewhere you've been before, like you and I have been to Europe a bazillion freaking times. But like going out and shooting on the street there, there's just different opportunities, because if I'm at home, I start becoming jaded to the same old things I see every day on forever while I'm just cruising around. It's always there. So I really like going out in different places and shooting. It provides a lot of excitement for me.
I understand. We're very fortunate in early touring days. I spent 12 years at a Catholic school, private schooling. My parents made me do that, and I stared at a lot of stained glass in my time. So one thing, you know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
and I would make up my own scenarios, like I would look up here and, they're selling me on this idea of the past and it's their rendition, and I would kind of change it in my mind a little bit. But I was fascinated by the time it took someone to cut glass and, the lead and the bending and all that. So early touring, I would spend a lot of time, like you said, out in the street. A lot of architectural stuff I shot. I would go to every church I possibly could and get in there, take the tour, get the stained glass, really look at how that culture, handled, I guess, their faith, their religion, and then their structures around their beliefs. It's fascinating, but you're right. You got to get out in the street. You got to look for it. I always say that, if you get out, and pretty much anything in life, I feel, I've always told my kids, I'm like, if you get up and you go out and you don't know what you're looking for, but you know that you got to go out, you'll find something. It's waiting for you. You may not know you love to fish. You might accidentally stumble across it because of a friend, and boom, you're the number one angler in this solar system. But a couple other questions to that. One thing, just off, because I think this is interesting what you said, and I'm not trying to get too personal or sway it, but I think you said something I feel like a lot of artists would say. You said, one, it's obvious you love to shoot, but you also said out loud that you're not confident with your photography. I understand that, but right. I wanted to ask you this, because you're all over the place with singing, which I love. I mean, you do some of the coolest things with other brands, as I would say, and I say brand because we grow up with these thought processes that are so important to our existence, and you've got to do that. But what I wanted to ask you, are you confident in your singing? And I'm strictly only asking artist to artist,
right?
With our doings that, our involvement and evolution constantly with our own colors in our brain. Are you confident with your singing?
With Lamb of God, 100%. Like, I know what I'm doing with Lamb of God works. And I know that within that framework, I fit, and I know, it just works. I mean, I've been doing it for 25 years. I'm
right.
I'm super confident in that. That being said, stepping outside of that and working with other artists, not at all. Not at all. I'm like, oh, I really hope I can pull this off. I did a project. I'm in this music collective, the Saw Dad Music Collective, and I did a song recently. Earlier this year, it came out, and it was me and Lee Scratch Perry and Dr. No from Bad Brains and John Medeski from Medeski Martin Wood and my friend Chuck Doom from Crosses and Team Sleep and Mackie from the Cro-Mags and David Torn who played with David Bowie and all these different musicians. One of the dudes from the Weather Report does freaking percussion on it. So it's this crazy thing, and the verses are very soft and they're sung, kind of like in a sultry sort of way, and I was not confident at all doing that until I got it right, and I've done like 3 shows singing the fast stuff with the Bad Brains before, because HR does the slower stuff, and it's like they're my favorite band of all time. The Bad Brains are, and I was just like so nerve-wracked doing that, because I didn't want to sound exactly like him, but I wanted to pay homage to him. I even just did a quarantine jam with the guys in SOD, Scotty Ian and Charlie Benanti and Dan Lilker, and we did some Discharge covers. They're one of my favorite bands. So, and that was just sort of a little bit more punk rock yelling. I couldn't really hear myself because my interface sucks shit, and I got a new one that I got to dial in. So it was just kind of yelling blindly in my closet, not being able to hear myself, but that made me nervous. Anytime I step outside of the framework of Lamb of God, which to me is like, I'm not saying it's easy and that I don't work at it, but it's kind of like hammering nails. I know how to hammer. I know how to hammer a nail. Boom.
It's a paintbrush that you've used for a long time, and it, and it's comfortable, and you're spending your life perfecting it. I know that one. I mean, I know what you mean. So I think, dude,
you do Slipknot really well.
well, thank you very much. I think when you're talking about that other stuff like Bad Brains, and congratulations, that's always, I love that, my friends and just people I know that will go out and do some of these things that are from our past and get to indulge in that. It's awesome. So congrats on all that. But when you're talking about, I guess, being not confident or nervous, I think that's that fear that we're addicted to of the unknown of our dream. It's like I tell people all the time, I'm never nervous to get on stage. I'm not scared like that. I'm not like, oh my God, I'm going on stage, these expectations. However, I have this monster in me that is in fear of its life because of random circumstantial events at any moment by anybody. So that fear driving through it in the location and the time of day, just wherever you are, whenever it happens, boom, there's always that little bit of anxiety of push of reality that always keeps us moving. And I think we're addicted to it. I think that's why we constantly keep going, to different.
I think that's super insightful. And it makes me think about, you're saying you're never nervous to go on stage. I'm not either, dude. Like, I don't get shook at all. I can remember the last time, and I wasn't really scared. I was just taken aback. The first time we played the main stage at Download, which was, I don't even know how many years ago. And I remember being in the car, and they took me around the racetrack to the stage, and I came around, and then I just saw that massive crowd. And I was like, whoa. And the driver was like, are you all right? And I was like, yeah, man, that's a lot of people. And he was like, yeah, it is. And then I was cool, but that's and it had been years before that I had been even slightly nervous about going on stage. But I don't get nervous about going on stage at all. But you're talking about that fear, that driving fear. I think that's really insightful, and it takes me back to why we started doing this in the first place, performing it, being willing to get on stage and take this thing that we've created and present it to other people, and there is that sort of, I don't know, almost adrenaline junkie aspect to it, particularly
100%.
particularly in the beginning when you're just starting. You're like, okay, here we go. This is some shit we've worked on, and now it's time to put it out there. This is where the rubber meets the road, and it's exhilarating when you do it, utterly exhilarating. And I think that aspect of fear, beyond my love for just creating art in general, I think that's super insightful. And I think that is one reason why I enjoy doing other things, because there is that aspect, and
we're always searching, and I would believe that a true artist, if there's such a thing, I have a hard time with that label. There's so many expectations with it. But however, I think we're always searching. We're always going to search, and we can't live without that fear, because that fear is what the dream is. The dream,
yes,
is so untouchable, it seems, and even if we think we got it, we haven't, because we're still searching, and there's always another day, and there's always anymore for me, I give it so hard that I make it mandatory that I take something from every performance, no matter what. No more excuses. No more saying, oh, good show, bad show, blah, blah, blah. I don't care, this, that. No. For years now, it's just been like, I'm taking something from here, because time is real. And there's something here, and I will always find the fear will always be there, but it's like I shoot that fear. You know what I mean? That's how crazy it is. That's what I see it. I see it in you. I see it in all of us. With that too, I want to say this. You sparked another little thing off the photography. You were saying, you express your life, you live your life artistically. I find myself raking the yard in a technique of artisticness. I'll be out there. I'm being completely honest. I'm working on my yard for the last 40 days, and I'll be out there. And my new thing is like, all right, man, you're fighting this tool. Like, what is it? And I'll stop, and I'll be like, what is this wonderful invention? What's it for? What's its purpose? What is the 100% thing it's for? Okay, set it down. How's it work? Why are you struggling with it? Why do you have to change hands all the time? Why do you have blisters? What's going on? So now, like everything I do, from brushing my teeth to like raking the lawn, man, I put some sort of spin on it for me to make it more efficient, more enjoyable, and part of a process that always allows me to get to what I really want to do. Like you were saying, get to the photography, get to recording music, prose, these sorts of things. So do you find yourself mowing the lawn with some sort of crazy rhythm or some sort of psychotic idea that, you might get a lot of comments on, because they'd be like, "What are you doing, dumbass?" And you'd be like, "Wait a minute, stop the press. This is me." So go ahead.
Yes, 100%. And mowing the lawn, dude, like, I have a very prescribed way I would mow the lawn, and it's a very uniform way, and I don't know if it's like undiagnosed OCD or something, but if I'm not doing it the way I want to do it, and it's not going to look the way I want to look, perfectly uniform, perfectly even, done in the most efficient manner possible, it's just like, it just will not do for me.
Yeah, man.
Oh, this has to be this way. But I think you said something interesting, and it really translates into my life, and like my life as a photographer, which occurs even if I don't have a camera in my hand, is that you're talking about using the tool and all that stuff. It seems as if you're consciously attempting to remain in the present moment by examining these things,
Yes. Yes.
Because this present moment is truly the only thing that exists, right? My life has seemed to exist so far of one long stream of this very moment, right? It's the only thing that fucking exists. So how can I make the most of this moment, whatever I'm doing at that particular time? And, like you're saying, you're doing it in an artistic way. For me, the way since I've become a photographer, this has changed the way I perceive everything. Like, I am constantly framing things visually. Constantly, man.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Like, I'll stand in a room in a certain way, like I'll shift even if I was like at a party or something, I'll shift where I stand in the room so that what I'm seeing looks like a better picture to me. Even if I'm not shooting pictures, I'm framing my existence, and
That's
it's a conscious thing.
That's real. And I believe, we've all had a fancy talk or two, or watched some information about the ability to tap into brain power we currently don't. We're alive using a certain percentage of our brain. And, I say brains, they're obviously divided. So why have one brain? It might as well be brains left and right.
Right.
But what you're talking about is exactly a corridor in your, in your large muscle. I mean, that's real. I mean, you're walking in, you're like, whoop, you're framing your life. You're like, I'm going to sit here because it looks better, talking to you like this, with that in the background. I mean, that's very real and very different, and goes along with what we do. And I think, people listening will find that fascinating, because I feel like everyone, because we're all human, we have that, whether we're honed in. And I guess a therapist might say, you're reacting on it. Like, that's in your psychic, but then you're reacting on it in the here and the now. So that's amazing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I love that.
It's interesting. everything is so connected to me. I'm talking about framing, and you were mentioning light and stuff earlier. Like the Japanese have a lot of really cool poetic terms for different things, but they have this one word that I fucking love that I learned about a couple of years ago. It's something that I've always been attracted to, but didn't know there was a word to express it. And the word is korimbe. I believe that's how you say it. And it means a quality of light filtered through leaves, right? So
wow.
one of my favorite things in the world is when I'm driving in my car and the sun is dipping towards the horizon or coming up from the horizon. It's low, and it's behind a tree line. And as I'm driving, this dappled light is hitting me, and I'm moving through it, and it's just so fucking beautiful to me that I will plan a route if I know during a certain time of day that I'm going to see that particular type of light coming through the trees, and it gives me this strange feeling. And I've told a few people on this, I want to make music that sounds like that feeling, that sounds like that sunlight coming through the trees, you know?
Let me express my sort of experience with that and keeping yours where that's at, because I know exactly what you're talking about. So there's a lot of things like that we hone on. One, to talk about that light you're talking about, one thing growing up, I've been very blessed to have been able to find music. It's like my only God. It's the only thing that's always been there for me. You know, I don't even need it on. It's in there. So I'm very lucky to have been able to find it in this reality. I can remember growing up, and to this day, and I was just telling my 16-year-old son, Simon, this the other day. I said, "Do you see this light?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Let me tell you about this light. I'm at Lollapalooza, you know, and this light is happening right now. And like Tool is on stage, second stage, and they're performing to this light. And this light is going to go away. And it's for a brief moment in the day. And this band is performing their art during this light. And I was in search of that world. So that light with performance on it. And I know that you've been to festivals when you were growing up or did road trips and all day things. And then that light hits, and then the day says goodbye and the night says hello, and we welcome it. And there's that transition. So light is everything, you know, man. So it's like, there's many levels of it. I also love, a good rain and then go outside and get on a nice cement street in town, and you're up on a hill and you can see the red, the yellow, and the green lights of the traffic lights just stretch the whole distance, being reflected on the whole street. It doesn't even seem possible. It doesn't even seem possible how it takes every groove, everything. The water just brings it alive. It goes all the way up the street, all the way in every world. It's so neon. It's so like unworldly. So that's very cool. I'm gonna try and remember that today about the lights between the leaves and the trees, because you're so right. There's that barrage of like a bullet attack of just different, so profound too. I mean, so out there, but so simple. Like, and this is what I think we all ignore are these things, but you're tapped into these things and making routes to enjoy these things. That's fabulous.
Dude, you were starting, I almost burst in and interrupted you. I got so excited. You were talking about seeing Tool. Was the sun was going down at the time?
Pretty well. It was it was going down, yes, but you had that. I don't want to call it the magenta hour because it wasn't about the sunset or anything. It was just about a certain briskness, almost like we were in an eclipse. I've always checked out eclipses, and there's a certain light there, and it's even dangerous to your eyes, but there's a certain anomaly thing that's happening, and I'm sure they have explanations, but it's real, and that's what I'm talking about. The sun is going down, but they have that optimum time, and I know you've been on stage performing at this hour. Dude. I have, and the tripness of it, but go ahead, say what you were going to say.
Yes. I have been on stage and during that time, and it's been almost hard to concentrate on playing because it's so fucking gorgeous. But the band I'm going to bring up, I think they fucking plan it, dude. I have seen the Deftones 3 different times at 3 different festivals.
Oh, I got
where
goosebumps.
the light was going down. And they played through the when they got on stage, it wasn't quite at full sunset yet. And then they played through that into dark, and the set moved with it. But that light, dude, for the Deftones, is just magic with their music. And I'm just standing there on stage like, oh my God, like this is such an intense experience. And I've seen it 3 different times. Like these motherfuckers are getting their set scheduled perfectly. They have to be, because it just works so well with them.
It does. It's a real thing. And when you love music like we do, and you take road trips with your friends, and sure, you have a couple drinks, you're hanging out, it's cultural, you're eating the food, you bump into people, you're hot, you're sweaty, you bow down, you're drinking a lot of water, you're doing all this, but then boom, that light hits, and that thing snaps in our brain, man. I love that. And it's been a long time since, we've done some things like that, and I'm sure since you've done things like that or whatever, but it still happens, and I always try to make a moment in my day to see who's playing around that time of day, because we all know, I mean, just like you said, they must plan it. And I think we all know we're going on at that time. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be feelings. It's going to be saturation, contrast, all the good stuff. So you got to kind of make a set accordingly. So that's interesting. And I bet you, especially like a band like the Tones, they're honed in on that. They know.
Oh yeah.
They talked about that in the day. They're like, well, this is up. What's up? Let's play Rosemary or something. Like it's awesome. I love that, man. So, well,
another super cool experience with light. And any surfer will be able to tell you this. I surf. I haven't been lately because of this pandemic, but and this is super magic with light. If it's a glassy day and you're out surfing, like the wind isn't bad and the water isn't choppy, it's just smooth. If you're in the water and you're surrounded by water and you're sitting on your surfboard and the sun is going down and it hits that magic thing, then not only is the sky and the air, that awesome, awesome color, but the water reflects everything. So it's like you're just floating there in color. It's such an awesome experience. Like you even when good waves are coming, you see guys just stop and just sit there on their surfboards like, holy shit, the water is pink and purple right now.
When you say it, it makes me think of like little diamonds popping, because like the sun, if you have just a little bit of waves, the sun will hit the tops of those pyramids of the water and just give you that triangle pop, that bang, like a sequence or a diamond, boom. And then, and then you add the purple and the blues and the magentas and the deep purples. And I know exactly what you're talking about. I haven't done it. I've always wanted, on another day, when we talk again sometime in the future, we're going to go into that surfing. But I promised myself, that the photography conversation's been many years overdue. And
for sure.
I wanted to, I wanted to get in there, but I will remember this, and I will get out there one day, and I want to try and experience as much as that beauty and that.
Just you don't even have to surf. You just got to sit on it.
Yeah, I got you.
Fucking unreal. Yeah. It's unreal, dude.
Well, I want to, again, I appreciate you. You know, this whole thing is, man, it's just, like I said, it's just human beings, you know, getting on the phone, having conversations. So I want to rewind, and we can end with this. I want to ask you a question, and it's only because long time ago, and, you know, I'm not bringing up anything. I have no agenda, so
go ahead.
When you were going through your legal stuff that, you know, we all know about, where you were contained and stuff, I had bumped into, I want to say it was Knotfest, or it could have been after that or somewhere, but you were out, you were performing, and you and I finally met up, and I had a moment to speak to you, and you had a moment, and I can completely remember saying to you, like, hey man, you know, I don't want to have to, you know, I'm not going to ask you to rewind all this or whatever, but, you know, are you okay? And these sort of things. And we talked about it, but I remember you telling me, and again, I have no angle here or whatever, but this is something that's been on my mind. I think about it from time to time because, you know, we stay in touch, whether we talk, I'll know what you're doing just by mutual friends. But anyway, to get to it, you were telling me that when you were in the jail or the facility, wherever you were, I want to say, and I could be wrong, but I want to say, I'm not going to say because I'm going to be wrong, but you were in a cell with someone from a different country who more or less spoke a different language. And when I asked you how things were, I think I was kind of sort of expecting maybe horror to begin with, but you went right into him teaching you his language, you teaching him yours, and somewhere along that. But what I wanted to ask you, it was so intimate and it was so real to me. Like, it was like, whoa, positive potential in negative potential. Who would know? So all I wanted to ask you was, by chance, do you stay in touch with that person?
I had two Mongolian cellmates.
Yes, Mongolian.
So an American heavy metal singer and two Mongolians go to jail in the Czech Republic. It's like a joke, you know. It's like a setup for a punchline.
So intense.
Yeah, and the first guy was this overweight alcoholic guy who he was busted for being there his second time being there without a visa. He got drunk and wrecked a truck. And the other guy was a Mongolian businessman. They brought him in after I'd already been with the first Mongolian for like 2 weeks in there. So they're like, haha, we have another Mongolian for you. I was like, what the fuck? This is so weird. But I did reach out. The first guy, as I said, he was like this overweight alcoholic guy he was like the world's worst personal trainer. Because all I ever saw him do was sit there. It was lay on his bed and whistle and do Sudoku puzzles. So while I'd be doing like push-ups and shit in my cell, he'd be like, you are weak like a girl, and just like fuck with me. He wouldn't do shit, but I'm like, fuck you, man. The other guy was like this businessman, and I think the first guy got deported back to Mongolia. And I'm pretty sure he did. And I don't even know if he knows how to use the internet. He wasn't that bright of a fellow. So his name was George. No, I haven't kept in contact with him. But the other guy was a guy named Gambold. And I did wind up contacting him a few years ago. And he sent me a picture of him and his mother and his girlfriend. And he was out and living in the Czech Republic because they were trying to. He was a good dude. He obviously did not belong in prison. Like, he was like this businessman guy, and there was something he was running a sort of a job, a company that found jobs for Mongolian immigrants in the Czech Republic, and there was some sort of tax evasion sort of thing going on with the Mongolian government with him, which he said it was his partner in the company who fucked him, and they were trying to deport him back to Mongolia. And he was saying he just didn't want to go back there because there's like a lot of like mafia, like Russian mafia running shit there. And Mongolian jail is apparently really not pleasant. Not that Czech was, but it's like really bad there, like Russia. So he got out, and I shot him an email a couple of years ago, and he hit me back very quickly, saying he was doing well, and we haven't communicated since. I think since he really didn't belong there, I think he was like, yep, I'm out. It's good to hear that you're out, and I'm trying to move on with that part of my life, you know?
Wow.
But in my book, there's a drawing of my cell, a really well done, like almost like he somewhere he found some graph paper in there. I think I'd given it to him, and he did like, it looked like a draftsman did it. And he sent it to me, and it said for your book. It's a print in my book. So it's a drawing of our cell together, you know, but, yeah, no, I think about those guys quite a bit. You know, the fat alcoholic guy is probably drunk in a yurt somewhere, and the other guy's in the Czech Republic chilling. So I wish them both well.
I knew in my heart, I figured that, you know, I didn't know there were two guys, but I just knew that you probably would have some sort of conversation with that person again. And then in the end, I guess what I was looking for, and it's sort of true, is that he gave you a piece of art, a drawing. I haven't seen it, but that's amazing. And that's why I was,
dude,
because it's the way you were explaining to me, you guys, you know, you were like, look, you know, I was teaching him words and stuff. I was like, that's amazing. You know, like I haven't seen that in a movie. I haven't seen that in, you know, America's Most Wanted. I've never like seen two cellmates, like, you know, talking about language and exchanging words and stuff. And I was kind of moved by that, you know, and it just kind of took my brain. So that's
check
really...
this out. Beyond the drawing, and this is along the lines of art still, he also gambled, the businessman guy taught me a popular Mongolian song, right? Like it would be like, I don't know, maybe like it'd be considered like an Elvis tune, you know, that classic, you know what I mean? And I remembered the first few words, and I remembered the melody. And have you ever heard of the band The Who? THE_HU?
I have not.
You should check them out, dude. They're from Mongolia, and they play. They've gotten a lot of heat on like NPR for some reason, and they're like metalheads. One of the dude has he has a Lamb of God tattoo on his back, right? But they play these crazy Mongolian instruments, and they do throat singing, and like they got a song on the new Star Wars video game, the Fallen Order, Jedi Fallen Order. Like George Lucas loves them. So he hired them to do, because they make this strange sounding rock music with traditional Mongolian instruments. So anyway, This band, The Who, they came to Richmond to play a concert. It was sold out. And I just showed up earlier in the day because I knew that they were big Lamb of God fans and I liked their music. So I walk up and they see me, they're on the bus and they're like, holy shit, you know, so they run off and we take some pictures, and they put me on the guest list later for the show because it's sold out. But I was talking to them, and they knew that I'd had Mongolian cellmates. And I was like, all right, wait, hold on for a second. You know, I was telling them a little bit about my prison experience. I'm like, do you guys know this song? I only know just the tiniest bit of it. And this was last year. So I hadn't heard the song in 7 years. So I started singing the few words that I remembered to him, and the melodies, it goes, Suni hu da da, and I can't remember the rest of the words. The first words are Suni hu. But as soon as I started singing it, they all started singing it with me. Like, It was crazy. And I got a recording of them singing it, and it's like this popular song. But that one Mongolian melody had stuck in my head for, 7 years. and it like, boom, I brought it out to them and they immediately knew it. It was crazy,
Well,
so that's art that the dude gave me too,
again, to bring it not full circle, but to come back to something again, when you take time to live in the moment, you can sit in a jail cell and just let your brain make you a prisoner, or you can occupy it with spirituality, educational, physical, like you were saying. But I think it's awesome how what you're saying, it's just this thing you were living in the moment, but it came back around in the moment and more intense. I mean, these are all new people, all new situation, all new occurrences. You're like, hey, I was doing this. I learned this. Do you guys know? Boom, they're singing it. You're like, what the hell? They're like, what the hell? That's kind of what you were talking about, and I was talking about trying to, live in the moment, understand the tool, understand it, because it's going to be beneficial later. It's going to come back, and you're just going to be that much better, or that much more equipped with knowledge or just awareness. And I think awareness is what we're losing. And I love this today, where we talked a lot about, I think, just being aware in your moments. You're framing out stuff. It starts with you walking by a coffee pot, and you're like, look at me. I'm in a Beastie Boy video or something. It's so cool, man. So I get that with you too, man. I've always liked your energy. You always feel, I'm not saying you feel calm, but you always feel like you're grounded in the moment. And that's hard for us out there. We all know plenty of people that get isolated quick, or can't live in the moment, or can't, get past it. So it's a good thing, man.
Yeah. And I think, I try to stay in the moment. I future trip and head trip just as much as everybody else, but I find that I'm a lot happier if I stay in this moment, however uncomfortable it is, and I recognize the reality of it. And I think that could serve us all well right now if we take stock of our situation, the reality, and stay in this moment and realize what there is to be grateful for.
I think that's well said. I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to avoid in conversation what's going on. I'm always just trying to be myself, and when it's really needs to be, I'm going to go there. But you're absolutely right. From everyone that I'm talking to and everyone I've been around, there's this general theme of, how do I say, I've heard a lot of humans and a lot of good friends, just a lot of people basically admit that they're doing things they've never done before. Could be with their kids. Yeah. And that, honestly, I'm gonna be honest, Randy, it surprises me. I spend, but I have 4 kids, and children will remind you very quickly, hey, I want to spend time with you. You're not spending time with me. This blah, 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 blah. So I spend a lot of time in my existence trying to figure out what it is I'm not doing and what I could be doing more. Like, I'm doing too much Slipknot. I need to do more family, this, that, whatever. Right. But I think it's beautiful that everyone's realizing the epiphany of this. But I think it's ultimately a little disturbing, the quantity of expression I'm hearing, that people will say, I never did this. And it's like, but you're this age. And I think we're all numb. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not pointing a finger. Right. I'm saying this reality's got us numb. Like, we all think the dollar is the almighty path. We all think, we have like 10 things we chase. And at the end of it, we're all like waking up going, wow, I did this, I did this, I did this. I've never done that. It's not like I haven't done that in a long time. It's like, I've never done this. And I'm like, wow. So
Yeah.
I try to keep that in my brain, honestly, about the positiveness of what could come out of this is the awareness that we are all going to get, not only to stay safe, the knowledge of what it is, what the actual virus is, and these sorts of things, but the awareness of oneself, a lot of what you and I were talking about today, just, I'm going to think about it all day, man. You framing out things, and I'm probably, as you were talking about, I started framing out my room. I'm like, pop, 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 pop. I got a circular chair, and I did a couple of rotations. I was like, yeah, I like this wall. I'm going to talk to him, look into, so I'm going to think about that all day, about framing out my reality that's already framed out before me, but it's up to me to change it. So,
yeah, man, it's all perspective.
Real quick, Lamb of God, gentlemen, everyone, close family, everyone in your proximity, everybody doing okay? Everybody all right?
Everybody's all right, dude. All right, man. Everybody is all right.
Good. I like it. We started it with you saying you're doing, home, blah, blah, here, there, but you're like meditation. So have a peaceful day. Thanks for talking to the clown. This is something I want to do again, and love talking to you, and tell everybody I said hello and stay safe. And yeah, man, it was a pleasure talking to you, and gave me a lot of good things to think about, and just a couple great stories to smile about. So thank you, man.
Thank you, dude. And real quick, your family is all good? You guys are okay?
Everybody's good, man. It's the only thing I got going on is I got a 16-year-old who just doesn't understand it, and what's interesting is I have to look at him and say, I don't understand it. I've never done this before. I'm 50 years old. This has never happened in my lifetime. With the world has never stopped, and just, so that's the only thing I got going on. And I bring it up because, I think about the younger generation, the younger generation that comes to our shows. And I'm really contemplating how I'm going to approach this and try and not help, but, express what I can, because it's real. And these younger generation may need to know. So I was talking to Des, and he was telling me that on the reservations, the kids aren't wearing masks. And maybe we didn't get into why, but maybe it's tradition. Maybe they just don't get it. I don't know. We didn't get into that, but there's all these layers. So I'm just glad that everyone here is doing great. We're doing good. Glad everyone else there in your life is doing good. Keep it up. Yeah, man. Let's get back to it. I'm going to see you out there. I know it. I've already foreseen it. I've seen it. It's emotional. It's emotional.
It's, dude, the first the first shows are gonna be so fucking nuts. Holy shit.
And Des brought up a good point too. He was saying there'll be an appreciation.
Oh yeah.
And I like that. And that's been a long time coming. That's been a very long time coming, because you and I both know when we go overseas, there's a layer of appreciation that doesn't occur in the States. Yeah. Every country is different. But, if American bands make the journey over the pond, usually the Europeans are just like, there's an appreciation that's unprecedented. So this is going to bring that awareness. And I've seen it, man. It's emotional. There's tears. Songs take on new meanings. Togetherness takes on new meanings. Our cultures, eyes open now. Everyone's going to be looking at everyone. It's going to be amazing,
Yes, sir.
So, all right, man. Well, again, much love. Stay safe. You need anything from me, let me know, and we'll do this again sometime. But get out there in the surf when you can, man. Enjoy that light. And as today, sometime, I will drive through trees and get a bullet attack of just awesomeness. So
yes, sir, dude.
You have a great day, my friend.
You too. Much love. Thanks a lot, Clown.
All right, man. Peace. Bye.
Peace.